Hey, this is Eric from Catching Light.
Hey, this is Hemp.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hi, I'm Steve-O.
Hey, this is Drew Hines with Hindsight Imagery.
This is Matt Callahan at Digimatty Photographic Services.
Hey, this is Jason, and welcome to Tales from the Pit. Hello and welcome to Tales from the Pit, the behind the lens access for concerts and photography. Today we have concert photographer Brandon Hanks. Brandon, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thank you very much. So we usually get started with like some sort of history of how you got started. Can you go ahead and kind of just walk us through a brief history of how you got into this industry?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I've always been like heavily into music throughout my life. And there was a point, and I hate to take it down to like a dark place, but I think we've all had those moments where, you know, we suffer from depression and some anxiety. And, you know, I think I was at my lowest point, and I heard a song on the radio. It was by Alter Bridge. It was Blackbird. And it literally it gave me chills, everything about the song. And I decided at that point I was hell-bent that I wanted to be around music as much as possible in any capacity. So I began searching for avenues and just different ways to kind of be involved in the community. And I found a photographer out of Louisville, and I contacted him and I was like, hey man, like I love your photos. Like, how in the world do you get access to all this world? Like, how do you do this? And he was like, man, I appreciate it, but you know, I'll bring you to a show and I'll let you borrow one of my cameras. And, you know, if you like it, that's cool. And then I'll, you know, have you do another one with me. And so I went out, and my first show was actually Nothing More.
Killer show. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
What year was that?
That was probably 2014, I think.
Oh, wow.
And so it was at Mercury Ballroom in Louisville, Kentucky. And so I show up, nerves just crazy because I have no idea what to expect. And, you know, I meet Derek, and I'm just like, oh, gosh, this guy is just like in his own right. He's an insane photographer. Like, I've seen his work, and I don't know what I'm doing. So we do the show, and, you know, you leave your first show and you just have that adrenaline going. You're like, oh, my God, that was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. And so I was like, he said, what do you think? And I said, I think I want to do this again. And so from there, I just started obsessing over it and becoming, you know, this guy that just like, I would look up YouTube videos and try to figure out like how to get better and like what kind of stuff to get. And I would watch other photographers and listen to their stuff. And eventually, you know, I started doing some stuff with like a little Nikon Coolpix camera and, you know, just trying to get used to like the whole thing. And eventually I was able to buy a used camera from a friend of mine in Louisville, Marco, and it was a Canon 60 Mark I. And, you know, it was like my first big time camera. And I just started to message people and was like, hey, you know, I'd like to do some photography. I'm just trying to get into it. And my first success was actually in Lexington, Kentucky with the first show, Blackstone Cherry.
Yep.
And, at Manchester Music Hall. And it felt just as good as it did the first time, you know. And from there, I just kept working at it and obsessing, and eventually did a couple things with a publication, and they got me into more shows and stuff like that. Did Green Day, which was that photo right there. It's probably
killer.
Absolutely crazy. I'll never forget that show. But yeah, it all stemmed from like just wanting to be consumed with music all the time and wanting to be around it and in any way possible. And I was just so fortunate enough to find people who wanted to invest time into somebody that, eventually would grow to continue to do this years and later.
Right. Nice. So did you have any photography prior to this at all? Any training at all? So you just kind of jumped in cold and kind of just jumped in the deep end and started going. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I swing for the fences. That's what they told me. So
sure. Yeah. That's
what I did,
Yeah.
And it's still to this day, it blows my mind when someone's like, "Oh man, that's an amazing picture." And it's like, it still blows me away. It's like, I love this world. I love the creative community. I love creating. And, it just seems kind of unreal sometimes when someone's like, "Oh, I would love to do that." And it's like, I remember being that person.
Yep.
And I'm still that person. Like I'll see somebody else's photos. Like I saw your photo from Smith and Myers.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I cannot wait to my first live show this year.
I gotta say, yeah, because we all shot that. What was it? 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And because everything was shut down last year, it felt really nice to be back out there doing it again. You're doing every weekend. You're doing shows at that venue, right?
I was, and unfortunately, things kind of came to fruition where like the budget kind of was not longer there. So that's why I kind of wanted to do stuff, with this publication. So now I do things with Alive and Loud magazine out of Buffalo, New York. And it's me and a friend of mine, Charlie. And we just get assignments, we go to shows, we do a live write-up, and we'll post photos and stuff. But yeah, it's been between me and him over the last, I want to say 2 years now, and things have just been taken off. And we knew with the pandemic, there would be some obstacles. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to stop. So I delved into some of my hard drives and I just found photos that I'd never edited and started reposting and tagging bands. And then I was like, man, I need to start a podcast. Like that would be something. And, use the connections that I've already had in the industry.
Yep.
Have some people on it and start, really putting the groundwork in for when shows come back, that these people will be like, oh, well, they did things with us whenever no one else did because, music is dead, but it's not, it's actually thriving now.
Yeah. It's about, everyone's starving for it. So it's so much going on. Now with your podcast, how far are you in on your podcast?
Today was episode 6.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be episode 7 with caskets. And then Charlie filmed an episode today. So we'll have 8 total over the next couple of weeks. And we're going to try and push those out, not really all at once, just kind of space it out and give it time to breathe and promote it.
And what's the theme around it? What's the
it's called Alive and Loud. And we basically just took the spinoff of Alive in Loud magazine and just called it Alive and Loud. And it's going to be hopefully this ever growing thing where we can just talk to artists and let them kind of have a platform. It's raw, it's uncut, we don't care, language is fine. If you want to call me whatever you want, you can tell me how you've had a bad day because someone cut you off in, this lane or that lane. But I just wanted to keep my finger on the pulse of music. And I didn't want people to think that as a publication, we forgot, or that as a fan, still to this day, we have not forgot about the bands that have inspired us up to this point.
Right.
So, whatever we can do, even a small publication out of New York and Kentucky, we can do this.
So so we got a pretty good understanding of how you started, but you're involved with a lot of, you shot for other venues and magazine stuff. So kind of give us a breakdown of some of the achievements and stuff like that you've been through.
So after I started doing some stuff in Lexington, I started getting some bands under my belt and I started to share the work. And I would realize that, everyone has a publication or like a publicist that they, are represented by a firm and stuff. So I would start to write things down and really try to get like this system together to where, once life after a house photographer was done, that I would still have all these contacts and I would talk to everybody, I would never bother the band or pander to them. I would talk to like the crew that set the stage up. I would talk to the lighting guys, the sound guys, people who really make live events happen.
Yep.
And try to rub elbows with them so that later on, if, I wanted to call in and say, hey, I'd love to get so-and-so on the show, or I'd love to sit down with so-and-so. And, or next time that they're in town or nearby, I'd love to come out and say hi and maybe cover the show. And over time, I just developed relationships with these people to where I have an ever evolving kind of Rolodex, and it's nice because I can cover like a 5-Finger Death Punch, for instance, 86 times, and it still doesn't get old,
Right.
And, we covered, I think it was Otherwise at Manchester Music Hall in Lexington. And I got an offer from Gibson Guitars. They wanted to publish a photo of their guitar player, Ryan Patrick, in Guitar Player magazine. And I was like, this is surely like, this is some sort of scam. Like, this doesn't just happen to somebody who, just
Right.
started like a year or two before.
Right.
And, I started emailing back and forth between these people, and they were like, no, we really want to buy this image off of you. And we love it. We want to, use it as like an endorsement for his guitar and this and that. So, I got published in this magazine, and I didn't know how big it was. Honestly, I was clueless. And then I look it up and I'm like, oh, this magazine's in like every store. And then my friend overseas is like an avid reader of Guitar Magazine. And they're like, dude, is this your picture? And I was like, hey, this guy's from Ireland. He's got my photo over in Ireland. Like, this is wild.
That's crazy.
And then shortly after, like, I had somewhere, Bowling Green, Kentucky, they were like, hey, we saw that you took this awesome photo of a local band, and we want to put this in like all the Visit Bowling Green brochures all across the state. And I was like, what is happening? I looked at my wife and I said, this doesn't just happen out of the blue, So it was really surreal to like have people seek out my work, and they're like, hey, we want to use this and promote this whole city. And I'm like, that blows my mind.
Yeah,
and
that's good, man.
Player magazine, I still to this day is a pinch me moment where I'm like, I feel like I'm like this kid in a candy store, and I still don't know if I'm going to wake up and it's like, that really happened. So my mom actually went out and bought like 50 copies of the magazine because she was so proud. I was like,
hey, give them away for Christmas presents.
Yeah. I said, do you care if I actually have a couple copies of that? That'd be nice.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
But it's just really cool, man, because you don't ever expect to have your work published in something like a hard copy.
Yeah.
And whenever it does happen, it just makes you realize that you started somewhere and now you've gotten a publication that's taken on your photos. And it's like, I don't want to stop now. I want to keep my foot on the gas, and I want to keep accomplishing more. Like, what else can I do?
Yep.
And so that's why whenever I reached out to the Signal in Chattanooga, I was really hopeful that I could go down there because they get some killer shows, and they just have it on like this format where like, if you see a show you want to cover, you just put your name in there and they secure it. So
how big of a venue is that?
I think it's like 2,000 people.
Yep. Nice.
So it's a pretty good size.
Yep.
The last show that I think a friend of mine went to down there that I had to cover something else was Steel Panther was down there.
Yep.
It's a band I still want to catch.
Yep.
Always want to
very entertaining.
Oh, I'm sure. I watch a lot of their live videos, and I'm like, gosh, they're so photogenic.
Yep. So the Signal. What else have you? Are you shooting for another venue? I think you said earlier today before we started as well.
The Manchester Music Hall.
Yep.
So they're just reopening their doors. So I'm going to try and get back in touch with the owner and be like, hey, like, I don't care about money anymore. This is about the art. Let's do this. I just want to get in here and start shooting shows again.
Right.
And, I think it's going to be just fine. But I've also recently reached out to Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville. And I was like, hey, I'm very interested. I know you guys, your opening year was COVID year. You didn't get to open officially. So, hey, I'm still here. I'm still interested. And they're like, yeah, you know what? We'll give this a shot. We'll forward you onto marketing and see how it goes from there. So I'm crossing my fingers that I can put a third venue under my belt
Yeah, no kidding.
to work for, but I don't care. You know, where music's at is where I want to be. I'll shoot it.
Yep. Yep. Totally. So now that you sort of gave us the you said your first official camera you had was the used was it 1D? What'd you say it was?
Canon 60 Mark One.
A 60 Mark One. Sorry. Yeah. Is that still your camera of choice, or do you have new equipment now, or what's
So I do have new equipment. I still have the Mark One. I actually got a Canon 60 Mark II that I've been shooting with the last almost 2 years.
Nice.
And that 60 Mark One, I've put it through hell and back, and it's held up. And I've produced some of my best work. I actually produced that shot right there with it, and a little 17 to 40 millimeter lens. But yeah, the 60 Mark II, and now I'm contemplating going to Sony. So
yeah, I actually
everyone is.
I don't know.
That changed last year.
I'm just kind of like hesitant, you know. I don't know if I want to pull the trigger just yet, but everyone around here has one.
Yep.
It's really nice, but
I've got too much invested in Canon right now.
So do I.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Got about
totally
10 grand worth of Canon. So it's
exactly.
I don't. Do I do it, or do I just stay?
We might just want to wait for the next version of Canon's mirrorless.
I know, and see, they actually have a really nice mirrorless camera.
But I heard that it overheats quite a bit, but I think that's more for video, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so.
Video.
But I'm thinking that's going to be one of the main focuses about, fixing that before they put out another one. So
definitely, yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I made that conversion. So in 2019, I shot with Panasonic, and then in 2020, I made the conversion to Sony before COVID, and then COVID happened. I'm like, well, that's not going to get used for a while.
Yeah.
So I just made the conversion myself to Sony. So my opinion is I also have the 5D Mark IV.
It's a good one.
I think the common census, and I agree with this, is the handling of the Canon in regards to its menu, layout, buttons, and all that stuff is much better night and day to the Sony layout. But the actual performance, in my opinion, and they both work great. They're both great. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges, but
yeah.
I just like certain things about the Sony more than I do the Canon, but they're both fantastic cameras.
Oh yeah. And what I love about Sony is that their color grading system is really, really nice, but also Canon just has such vibrant colors, and they're so deep. That's what I've loved about Canon.
So what's your process? So when you're shooting for a venue or for a magazine or whatever, what is your workflow?
Workflow is if it's for a venue, for instance, and I've got access to their social media, what I'll tend to do is I'll take a couple pictures, first 3 songs, and then what I'll do is I'll Wi-Fi to my phone, do a quick edit pass, and then I'll post to the venue social media while the band is still currently playing, just to kind of get that draw before the band gets off stage. So that, like, if they hit their dressing room and they're like, man, what a show, and they're looking at the venue to see if there's any comments about it, they're like, oh, that was just like 5 seconds ago. You want the bands to be constantly impressed and to up the game a little bit, and to just kind of be ahead of it. With the publication, I kind of do the same thing. I'll do a quick upload at a show, do a quick edit, and then we'll post a little blurb about it while I'm still there. That way, same thing. They get off stage and they're like, that was a great show. Oh crap, there's already this photo of us we just played. So, this guy's really on it. And word of mouth in our industry, as you know, is so huge and can take you to a lot of places, or it can hurt you depending on how you conduct yourself. So
absolutely.
That's something that I always pit etiquette, it's a big deal.
Yep.
But I always try to carry it over into my workflow as well. So, whenever I'm at home, I have like a whole Lightroom preset based off of like specific venues and their lighting. Like, I'll give it like crazy titles. Like if I look at the lighting of, say, your room, Jason, that's in the background, I've got a preset for like the blues, and I've got, something where minor tweaks here and there. So it's not a complete cheat, but it's definitely something that helps. But it's something I've started just to kind of make the flow go better, so I can get the edits out a lot quicker.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I love having just a nice, easy workflow. I'm very big on lighting. I like to use colors. I won't always like color correct things. Sometimes I'll keep like a little purple in someone's hair with the natural light over on this side of their hair. Just depends on how I'm feeling. I'll throw on some music of whoever I just shot, and I'll just base it off of that.
Yeah, just go with the flow. Absolutely. And are you a black and white guy at all? I mean, do you have?
I do love black and
preferences?
white.
Yeah.
My favorite show that I've ever done black and white for was Godsmack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was a shot of Sully, and to this day, I can't wait to print it out because I'm going to put it somewhere in here. But I'm running out of wall space. Actually, I need to. It's a shot of Sully with his old school mic like right here.
Yeah.
And he's got his veins popping in his neck.
Yeah.
And he's just got his mouth wide open. He's belting out something, but it's so sharp it like cuts the eye.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things where I really love our craft so much that I'll edit. Sometimes over edit, and I'm like, well, let's take that back just a little bit more. You don't want to too much shadows. It's too white, but it's one of those things where I'm super proud of it. Another one would probably be this shot of Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold. Right
Nice.
Here.
Yep.
He was super far away, and he was doing something funny. He was trying to prank one of the other guys in the band, and he was like kind of sucking on his glasses. And I just caught like a really interesting like glance over his shoulder, and I was like, I've got to like crop super in on this. And it ended up being great. I love it. That's another black and white that I'm obsessed with.
Nice. Do you have a specific lens you prefer for shows, or do you have a combo, or what?
I tend to rock both bodies at most shows. If it's a smaller venue, I'll just use the one, and I'll rotate out my wide angle 17-40.
Yep.
And my 70-200.
Yep.
The 17-40 is a f4 lens, so
Yep.
it's already cutting pretty sharp. But I do have a 28-75 that I will favor every now and again and keep it at a 2.8.
Yep.
Just because I can in post, you can always bring in the sharpness later on.
Yeah.
There's just so much you can create with that.
Are you happy with the bokeh in that 17-40?
I love it.
Really, I compared to that 70. I shoot both lenses. That's at a show, and if I'm shooting the 70-200, I can't get any comparison between the two.
I don't know. All goes down to like vibes too of the show. Like it just depends. Like I've shot Trivium, and I put the 17-40 on there, and I wasn't feeling it, so I switched to my 2.8 28-75, and I was happy with the end result. But that. I hate to beat a dead horse, but this shot right here, Billy Joe, was with the f4, and it's just so like the stage is still blurred real well, but it's not super bokeh out to where you can't tell what it is, but it still has that nice softness to it,
Yeah, I've been sticking with my 16-35 and the 70-200, and my 24-70, I just never pull out anymore. I don't know why. I keep thinking I have 3 bodies I could hang, but
yeah,
I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and sometimes like if depending on the pit size and how many photographers are there, I'll really only take in one body because that Green Day show, there was like 28 people in the pit, and it might have been like 3 feet deep. So where you stopped, like once you all walked in, is where you stayed for the whole show.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to get nothing. I had one body, and I honestly had that 17-40 millimeter and a 70-300 Tamron. So I was like, and I was putting them in my cargo shorts. So like, I didn't have like fancy things to like hold on to my lenses, and I didn't have anywhere to put it down. So I was like, this lens is going to be destroyed.
Yeah. That would drive me nuts, that many people in the pit.
Yeah,
oh
no
my
kidding.
gosh. That it was so nerve wracking too, because there were vets there, and they're like, yeah, you meet up with them all at the one meetup spot at some of these bigger amphitheaters, and they're like, well, we'll walk you down whenever it's time to shoot this band or that band. And it's like, okay. And then this guy's like, yeah, I've shot Green Day 40 something times. And it's like, well, good for you, buddy. I haven't got to shoot them at all. And I'm really nervous. They're like, oh yeah, you expect this. And they're all just like all nonchalant, putting their gear together. I'm like, Oh my God. I'm in over my head. This is like the first big show. On my way down to the pit, then I get confirmed for Bush, and I'm like, well, yeah, I think I need to go buy another lens.
Time to upgrade. Yeah, totally.
I'm time to upgrade.
Are you doing video at all? Or are you just strictly stills?
You know, I actually started to dabble a little bit a year and a half ago in video. I bought a Ronin S gimbal.
Yep.
And I started practicing with my daughter. I would just say, you know, go play out back and run around and act crazy. And, you know, I'll just go out there and try and learn it, you know, and put things together. I started with iMovie. I still play around with iMovie. I think it's actually a very underrated editing tool.
Yeah. It's nice for, you know, if you're a Mac person.
Yeah, which I am. Definitely a Mac.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually did a couple show recap videos for a local band out of Bowling Green, Kentucky. Kiss Kiss Bang. They're a phenomenal band.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
And actually, funny story, at that first Blackstone Cherry show, I became their kind of tour photographer. They're, you know, like a local band. And they've gotten some really big breaks opening for some pretty good sized bands before, like Buck Cherry and let's see, Faster Pussycat. We went down to Huntsville, Alabama for that. So
that's cool.
That was really wild, you know, and I got to experiment a lot with my own creativity with them. And so hopefully once shows come back, we'll be able to do some more stuff together. But
now,
Are you traveling a lot, or are you just basically staying somewhat local?
Somewhat local for now. For a while, I was traveling, it seemed like every week. And I would be in Lexington, I'd be in Nashville, I'd be in Indiana. You know, based out of Kentucky, there's so many venues. There's at least 5 Kentucky venues that I frequent. 9 or 10 Tennessee venues, and over like 10 venues in Indiana that I've shot at, between like smaller 2,000 cat venues to arenas and stadiums and stuff like that. But where, like I've said before, you know, wherever the music is at and I can get approved for a show, that's where I'm at. And honestly, I've started to branch out into genres. You know, I did Old Dominion. I've done some country.
Yeah, they're coming to our venue here later on.
Old Dominion?
Yeah. We actually get a lot of country shows.
They are a blast to shoot.
Are they?
I never thought I would say it.
Jason,
It's my wife's favorite country band.
Oh, really? They are, Jason.
Jason, don't you have one of those shows?
I think I do, yeah.
They're a great group of guys. They're real fun. The lighting, phenomenal for country shows. I have to say, it makes me want to like shoot only country sometimes, just because you go to that one metal show of like your favorite band, like say it could be Architects, and then it's like all reds or all blues, and you're like, oh God, no, I have to work harder now.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I've actually started like listening to heavier. Like my absolute favorite band was and will always be Alter Bridge with Mark Tremonti, which, you know.
Yep.
And then lately I've been listening to like Era, August Burns Red, you know, Day to Remember, Era, Eminence, bands like that. And it's just been blowing my mind, because now I'm like a wider palette of music, and these bands are coming around my area within the next 6 months. So I'm like, oh, that's great. Now I have a better taste of music and a more wide range of music. I can go to more shows now.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much within the last, I don't know, month, everyone has been announcing shows. So it's, you know, I think everyone's just starving to get out there. You know,
it's a beautiful thing, really.
Our venue just kind of released a bunch of shows. So we've got our summer set, because we're an outdoor venue. So we have our summer kind of prearranged now. And, you know, I think there's a ton of fall tours that are getting ready to be announced here. Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty psyched about all that stuff. So yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, like I'd say most of our shows this summer are going to be country right now.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I know we're probably all 4 bunch of metalheads here.
Well, 3 of us are.
Yeah.
I like to shoot a good metal show. It's just, I can appreciate all of it. You know what I mean? We'll have comedy acts come. I'll shoot that.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, that's one thing I've never done, and I actually might reach out. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get a hold of a comedian's publicist at all. But we have quite a few of acts coming. We have Jeff Dunham coming through, Bill Engvall. Gosh, so many comedians.
Most of them don't want to be shot.
Yeah.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
But before the whole Kevin Hart thing, there were certain allowances at some of our theaters over here across the river, and they were actually allowing photographers to be in the room for like 20 minutes.
Do I want to ask
Really?
what the whole Kevin Hart thing is?
Oh, the Kevin Hart thing was whenever he was doing, I think, one of his last tours, and he had security that was like, he wanted his fans to really enjoy his performances, so he didn't want anybody recording. And he would have like ushers basically say, if you don't put your phone away, you're out.
The whole
Remember
Peter
that.
Frampton.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that sounds like
Yeah.
we've
I mean,
not
I
witnessed
totally
it, but
get it, but it in the same vein, it's like, man, that, you kind of want to take something away and remember. But I think his thing was he said something about he just didn't want people stealing jokes and things like that, because apparently comedy is a cutthroat business. You never know.
Sure. Yeah.
the last comedy, I can't tell you the guy's name, red-haired guy with a beard, and I know they picked him up, and he, a lot of these guys will come with agents and production and all that, and they picked him up at the airport. It was him. They're like, where's the rest of your people? He's like,
That's him. Yep.
he's like, who else do I need? Let's go. And he walked out
Need a
on
microphone.
stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last one I shot was probably Bob Marley at B&H, and I mean, how many times can you wait for the guy to make a face?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to make a silly face and you can get a good picture. Other than that, he's just a guy standing there with a microphone.
Yep.
I think I did John Christ. He's a Christian comedian. I did like a couple Winter Jam.
What's that like?
He was actually pretty funny, because I was raised in like a super strict Baptist home as a kid. And so like the fact that I even get to do what I do now and like have like tattoos and everything, it's like a big rebellion. But
I feel you. Same,
yeah.
just Catholic. That's the only difference. So,
So I went to a couple Winter Jams, and I was like, that was something I always wanted to do, because Skillet, rad band, I knew that they always frequent Winter Jam, and apparently it was really easy to get approved for those types of shows. So I got approved for 2 of them, and there was a comedian, and I'd never heard of him before, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Like, you're used to shooting guitar players like whipping it back and forth, and like the drummer like doing crazy things. But the comedian, he was so animated physically. He actually would like do some poses. He's like, all right, is that good? How's my good side? And I was like, okay, well, this is actually, but I knew I like, this guy is going to set the standard, and I'm going to shoot another comedian one day, and he not be as animated or want to be getting his picture taken.
Right. Right.
So I was like, if I don't ever get this opportunity again, I can say that I shot this guy, but it was a part of Winter Jam, so it wasn't like I went to a comedy act.
Have you ever been shut down by anybody? Like, has anyone said, all right, stop taking pictures or anything like that?
I have, and it scared the shit out of me. It was Bush. So I was always told, try to get a set list, so when you're writing an article, you can put what their set list was from that day. Bands will always tape a set list down to the stage or to a monitor or whatever. Well, I was done shooting the first 3 songs for Bush, and I was exiting the pit, and I was walking out, and I saw a set list inside of a guitar case, but like it was so hot, I was like in a hurry because I wanted to go get some water, and I looked back and I'm like, there's no one behind me, and I just took a quick photo like that. And I don't know if it was just like a stage guy or the tour manager. This dude was big. And he like yelled at me from the stage. He's like, growled at me. I'm like, whoa, what did I do? He's like, delete it now. Delete the picture. Show me you deleted it. And I'm like, oh God, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? And I'm just like going through my mind, because this was like the second biggest show I'd ever done at that point. Like Green Day, biggest show I'd ever done. Bush was next. Hadn't done anything big besides those 2. And I'm like, I just burned a bridge. And I was like, he's like, you don't ever do that, ever. And I was like, scalded, and I'm like, oh my God, I did not know. I genuinely apologize. I'll delete it. I'll rip the SD card up. I didn't even shoot the show. And he's like, something just went off in his head. And he was like, okay, thank you for deleting that. I'm so sorry that I went off the way that I did. And I'm like ready to just like go to my car and just cry. I was like, I'm never going to work in this art again. But luckily he was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I should have acted the way I did. Thank you so much for deleting it. Have a safe night. And I was like, what just happened? You know?
Yeah, we've had a few. I mean, I'm not going to say who, but we've had a few who are really, really particular about where you're standing, what you're using for gear, what songs you're shooting at, all that stuff.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Steve's the man. He's been doing this for over 10 years. He's had everything. He's been through every scenario. I'm sure he has plenty of stories he could tell about that.
Have you ever had a
guest
cease and
someday.
desist?
What's that?
Have you had a cease and desist?
No, I don't have one of those. That's cool.
Good.
Not
I
yet.
haven't either. I'm just asking. I know a lot of
Not
people
yet.
have.
I would frame the shit out of that. That'd be neat.
Right? Yeah, I know, right? I almost did with Aaron Lewis whenever he was solo. His tour manager just.
There you go, him.
I'm shooting him Saturday night.
You have something to look forward to.
Well, I don't know if he has the same tour manager, but maybe he was just. And here's the thing, like, and I get it. You know, I know we're cutting up right now, but these artists and these managers and these road crews, they're all people, and at the end of the day, they're entitled to have bad days. I get it.
Yeah.
Does it make it right for them to be douchebags to us if we're not overtly being pricks and, you know, breaking every photographer rule, media rule? You know, I get it. But I signed a contract to shoot the Aaron Lewis show. This was years ago. It was like right when he first went solo. And he's like, here, I'll give you a copy of the contract. You know the rules. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, basically, it's just don't post unflattering photos. And if your gear is left unattended and one of my guys gets hurt because of it, then you're at fault. And I was like, cool, I totally get that. That's totally reasonable. And I posted a photo like the next day, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I get a copy of the contract? And then he basically played it off like, I don't know who you are. I don't know how you got my email. And I was like, what is happening? And then I was told to stop posting photos of Aaron.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't let me shoot last year. So,
But Aaron himself, awesome. He was out back playing golf in the parking lot. And, you know, I was just like, hey, man, it's really cool to meet you. I don't want to bother you, but, you know, I just want to say hi. And he's like, oh, cool. You know, how you doing? And I was like, oh, better than I deserve. He's like, well, whoever told you didn't deserve better? You know, so like he's a really nice, down to earth dude.
Yep.
Had a great experience with him. But that, like I said, that manager could have been having a really bad day. He might not be his manager now. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. What is sort of your number one show or number one band you want to shoot that you haven't shot yet? Or what's your sort of bucket list sort of thing?
Oh, it's so cliche. It's so cliche because
It's Metallica.
yeah.
Foo
And
Fighters.
They're playing Louder Than Life this year, and
Yep.
it's in Louisville, and it's literally an hour away, and they're playing 2 nights. And if I don't get to do this, I will be devastated.
Yeah.
The whole 4 days is stacked as far as the lineup is concerned, but Metallica in my backyard, and
Yeah, that's killer.
man, it's just, you know, I see so many people who've gotten to cover them, and like they always come away with killer photos. And this is like not one of the strange stages where it's like in the middle of the arena. It's like an actual stage. So like, you know that you're not going to have to like go around different things in the pit. I have to shoot this show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly. I'm sure Metallica has a high demand. So I don't know how they determine who gets to shoot what. If that's, you know, I don't know how that's decided, but I'm sure there's like a big long line for every show
Oh yeah.
Or photo passes.
Which is why, ultimately that I just want to continue to kill it with putting out content with Alive and Loud and
Yep.
doing the podcast and getting all these episodes out and promoting bands and just staying relevant in the community. So that way, whenever it comes down to it and they're looking to approve people, they can be like, well, this guy has stayed true. He's always putting out content. It's always good content. He's kept his finger on the heart and soul of music. This guy should get it. That's what's going on in my head, at least.
Sure. Yep.
Because there's a lot of outlets that through the pandemic have just quit putting out content.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that just went radio silence.
Yeah. And
Soon
now,
as COVID
of course,
hit,
now that tours are coming back, they're like, oh, well, but
here we are.
I haven't stopped. I haven't taken my foot off the gas since the last show I shot was Alter Bridge in Nashville last year in February.
Killer. Yeah.
And, it's like, I won't stop as long as I have a computer, as long as I have photos to edit, as long as there's music still out there. I'm going to try to find some way to put out content.
So what are you thinking for this year? What's your plan? What's your strategy for all your, you sort of talked about, getting some of these things going, but what's your strategy for all this?
And also something I should be noted, I haven't talked about, but I also do Rise Up Photography. It's my business.
Oh, right.
Here in Owensboro. So I do like weddings and stuff like that. Senior pictures, like the whole local stuff. I do it all. And then some bands that I'll develop a personal relationship for, I will go directly through. If there's a show, if it's a band I've already shot, like say Breaking Benjamin.
Yep.
I'll hit somebody up and I'll be like, hey, you're going to be in my town. Love to see you again. It'd be something like, oh, hey, bring your camera. Let's, goof off or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's nice that way. If anything, God forbid, if anything ever happened and something didn't pan out, I could always rely on just how I conduct myself at these shows with the artists, with the crew, with the management.
Yep.
And, one day I wouldn't need to have a publication or something like that, but I'm loving what's happening with the publication. It's growing. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Going forward, I just want to keep doing what I've been doing. I don't want to take my foot off the gas. I want to keep going and creating content, seeing if this podcast can keep growing and learn new things about ways to create that kind of content, promote it. I think, once we get a few more episodes under our belt, I'd like to put us on like Spotify and iTunes so that people can listen instead of have to look at my face all the time and watch the episodes,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because a lot of people took this pandemic thing for granted and live music. And then towards the end of last year, people started to be very vocal about how they miss live music.
Yeah.
And it's like for us who this has been our life for so many years, it's like a kick in the gut.
Yeah, no kidding.
It really took the air right out of us. And it's like, oh my God, we got to do normal things now for a while.
I will say, we all just shot a show 2 weeks ago. I was freaking sore the next day.
Oh, I bet.
Not moved much in the last year. I felt it.
Yeah, but you were happy too.
Absolutely, it was a happy sore.
It's
yeah,
a good burn.
Good burn.
And I fully anticipate, no matter if it's an arena or like a small 700 cap venue, I hope I'm sore the next day, just because the pain lets us know we're alive. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like that'll be like, I'm sore because live music is back, and I was at that show.
Hemp and Steve, I've been hogging the mic. You guys have anything you want to?
You're the man. I just want to sit here on the altar and bask of your greatness.
Yeah. Okay.
I jump in. I've jumped Alive and Loud. Is that just basically online?
Yeah, it's an online publication.
Yeah.
We will kind of do the blog thing. We'll go to a show and say it's like Chevelle. We'll do the show. We'll do the first 3 songs of each band. Post photos. I'll do like a concert review. I'll type up an edit of like what I thought of the show, highlight it. Always posting fan photos first and foremost. You started as a fan, you end as a fan, and plus that interaction between an artist and their fans it's just insane. That energy, and I always try to capture that. and insert that somewhere in my articles. But I don't know. I used to not be such a writer. I was always very scared to write because I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to structure things. And then, I over time I just started to learn how to do it and watch other people and how they would word things and see kind of how the dynamic of that would go. And the whole dichotomy of things, really what it boiled down to was just write how you feel, but make it look neat, put a little bow on it and send it. And now I love writing. I write a piece almost every week now, whether it be about a single an artist has released or a full album review. I did Alter Bridge's Walk the Sky review last year.
Yep.
Or the year before, I guess 2019. And I'll do either a full track breakdown or I'll, break down like my top 5 favorite songs off the record. But it's just a lot of fun. There's so many avenues in our industry that you can be creative with. And I feel like I have my hands in so many different cookie jars of it that it's never enough. Like I'm consumed with it. And if it wasn't for my wife and my daughter and my daughter that's on the way, I wouldn't, that support is everything to say, oh, well, that show's coming up, and they push me out there. They're like, go do that. It's a huge opportunity. You never know where it will lead, and it's so awesome because who does that? Like what spouse is that encouraging and that, foregoing all things that you ever think about being married. We're going on 8 years and we have our second child coming in 4 weeks. And
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It's phenomenal.
And we're just, we're this big team, and she'll sometimes be like, hey, did you see this person's playing in Evansville? And it's like, no, I didn't, but I got to check it out. She's like, yeah, you should totally shoot that show. And it's just it's so insanely awesome to have that support because, ultimately my end goal is to do tour photography. I want to set up shop with a band. I want to, have that consistency with an artist to always be creating. I don't ever want to stop creating. And if my work ever strikes the fancy of somebody like a Skillet or a Chevelle or a Breaking Ben or, whoever, architects, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I would love that opportunity to get up every day and say, I get to do this for a living.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's ultimately the end goal. But, to have that support from the family like that is awesome. I'll let my 7-year-old come in here sometimes and put her hand on the mouse. And, whenever I'm editing, she'll be able to kind of like raise the shadows a little bit here and lower the highlights there. And she's like, Daddy, we did that picture together. It's like, yeah. And I'll even credit her on Instagram sometimes. So it's just an awesome thing. It's opened up a lot of doors, and I'm just truly, truly grateful for all of it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, man. You got a lot of cool photos, a lot of neat stuff. Where do people go to find your work?
You can find me on Instagram at Rise Up Photography Official. Also Alive and Loud. You can also go to aliveandloud.com. It's just alive, the letter N, and then loud. We post content as much as we can. Rise Up Photography features all of my work from across the board as far as stuff I've done with publication, music venues that I've worked for, and just my own personal stuff that I go out and shoot for myself, local bands and things like that. I love to connect with people. I love, these aspiring photographers that are like, oh man, I hope to get to that level one day. It's like, that's ridiculous. Don't ever say that. You don't want to be at my level. Like I still want to be at your level where I'm still learning, because I am still learning, but it's great because I had somebody reach out to me today and they're like, I have questions, and I'm like, I do too, but let's figure them out together. Yep. I want to encourage people, buy a camera, whether you're shooting pictures of a garden or pictures of school sporting events or families, this community is amazing. It's competitive. You might step on toes. You might actually be better than you thought, but you never know where it might go.
It's a wide mix. We all work together through a venue, and we get to work with each other and learn from each other. But we also have a lot of outside, photographers for, publications and all that stuff coming through, and tour photographers, everything. So we get a good mix. And, I got to say 95%, if not more, is awesome. There's always a bad seed in the mix somewhere, but
yeah, it happens.
Generally it's very cool. It's a really good group of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're the bad seed,
It's a
Jay.
5%.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. If you look around at your friends and you don't see the bad seed, then the bad seed's right there.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going to go that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us, dude.
Hey, I
It's really,
appreciate you guys having me,
you
man.
got some awesome work. You've done some, you got some cool stuff happening, and hopefully 2021, I know there's tons of stuff getting ready to just get rolled out. So I'm sure we'll all have plenty of work by the end of the year.
I am so excited.
Hey, thanks for watching our episode with Brandon Hanks. We hope you enjoyed it. You can check out our other guests on our YouTube channel, on all your favorite podcast locations, and talesfromthepit.net. We'll see you next time.